So we have another federal agency walking back their layoff plans. This is in an office that focuses primarily on contract compliance. So you know our federal government gives billions of dollars to private companies through contracts. Most of these companies are supposed to have an affirmative action plan. A lot of people don't like those words, affirmative action. Basically, they wanted to make sure that no discrimination was taking place when it comes to your race, your religion, your gender, your disability status, your veteran status, all of those things. Now, last year, there were 700 audits. From those 700 audits, 23 audits actually showed proof of discrimination. Now, that's a 3% rate. A lot of people are looking at that, they'll scoff at that. Only 3%? Why are we even having the program? But if you were one of those 23 people, I'm sure you cared about this office. You cared about this program. But now this office falls under DEI, and you know we can have none of that. There can be no DEI under the Trump administration. So you had between 400 and 500 people that were placed on administrative leave, or they were left in limbo trying to figure out their future. It was for certain that they were going to get laid off. Everyone thought that, right? Some of them actually quit. They took the deferred resignation program, they got out of there. But now we're hearing from the Department of Labor that these people, they're not going to be fired. They're actually going to be reassigned to one of the sub-agencies, one of the sub-offices within the Department of Labor. Now, this is the right approach, in my opinion, because these individuals that you have in the agency, they have the institutional knowledge. They have an understanding on how the agency functions and works. So instead of losing that talent completely and hiring new people eventually down the road, you take them, you retain that talent, and you reassign it into another office where they can still leverage what they know to get a new mission accomplished. Now, as far as that agency, I believe it's called the Office of Federal Contract Compliance, OFCCP, something like that. As for that little office right there, that they're going to have a completely new mission. So their mission is now to collect less data. So I think last year they collected like 23,000 documents, or there were notices that were coming out. So they're going to scale down how much data they collect, and they're going to focus more on the merit of the contract and less on human resources. So the human resource component of that contract, they're gonna like disregard it. They're not even gonna look in that section. Also, the Department of Labor have announced that they have reduced their workforce by 20%. And this was done not by layoffs, but by attrition and the incentives, early retirement, deferred resignation program. This is the way that past administrations have reduced the federal workforce. It was largely through attrition. And it is especially effective right now because we're in a hiring freeze until October 16th. So agencies are losing people each and every day. So they have decided that layoffs are not necessarily needed in the Department of Labor right now. Now, because this office is kind of being redirected, I'm not going to say it's completely going away, but it's being redirected into a new mission. People are worried what's going to happen in the future because there have been cases of discrimination that had far-reaching impacts. Look at a company just several years ago, TTI Incorporated. Let's use that for example. TTI Incorporated, they were hiring Operator 1 and Operator 2 positions within a warehouse. Now, when an audit took place, it was revealed that number one, African Americans were not being hired at the normal rate, let's say. Number two, males of any race, just men in general, were not being hired, which seems a little counterintuitive because when I envision a warehouse working environment, I typically think of more men than women. Just, because of the labor associated with it, it attracts more men into that work environment. But for whatever reason, in TTI Incorporated in Texas, I believe it's Fort Worth, Texas, they had a lot more women working in the warehouses. So they do like a statistical analysis. And if you have 100 men that apply and you're hiring 10, and then you have 100 women apply and you're hiring 30 or you're hiring 40. So it's 4 times the rate. That's kind of an example. Those aren't the actual numbers. And the same thing can be said about race. So if you have 100 African Americans applying, you have 100 Asians, and the numbers are not aligned. It's showing that it's clearly something discriminatory within that hiring process. It's not like a one-off or, just a couple here, a couple there. It's not like that. So TTI, they didn't admit any fault, but they paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages, and then they pledged to hire more men. Now, this company is like a middleman, right? So they provide electronic components to the government, but they source those components from countries in Asia, the countries in South America. So they're able to get the components that the government needs, and then they pass them on when they take their cut of profit. Also, these jobs, these operator 1, operator 2, these are not high-paying jobs. These are jobs that pay between $35,000, $45,000 a year. Operator 2 might go in the 50s. It might be like $55,000 a year. So we're not talking executive positions or highly sought after positions. But if you're looking for, a job that pays around 40 to 50K a year in Fort Worth, Texas, I'm sure a lot of people applied hoping to have an opportunity within this company. So this is an example. There are other examples where they're discriminating against veterans because of their medical history, because the job has some sort of medical examination component to it, and they find out you have PTSD or anxiety or depression, and they don't want to hire you because you're a risk. Number one, you could have way too many medical appointments throughout the day, takes you out of the loop. You can't contribute to the team. They don't want that. Number two, there's also a stigma that if you're coming back from Afghanistan or Iraq, maybe something sets you off and triggers you. You become violent. You become chaotic. They can't control you. So they don't want that as well. And with these companies that discriminate, this office in the Department of Labor, that's what they did. That's why you had 400 people there to run hundreds of audits, even though it's kind of the anomaly, or it's more on the margin that companies are doing the wrong thing. Just this office existing helped when it comes to not discriminating throughout the hiring process. Now, in addition to this, have you ever applied for a job, received an interview, thought you did pretty well, or you didn't, doesn't matter, but they never told you your status? They never said, you're going to get the job or you're not going to get the job. No communication. Well, that's called ghosting. They ghosted you throughout the hiring process. Well, there's new rules out there, and in one situation, an employer could be fined up to $100,000 if they do not complete that communication loop. So if you're interested in that, I want you to check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.